Hello everybody, French Macron has taken everyone by surprise, I think. A message to Putin. Putin is trouble. France warns Russia for the last time. Nobody.
Que nous souhaitons encourager, mais aussi de plusieurs événements de portée nationale.
French send the French troops into France. Well, sorry, into Ukraine.
Welcome to the Frontline Reports YouTube channel. The invasion of Ukrainian territory has destabilized the whole world. Many states are worried about Putin's instability in the wake of this invasion. French President Emmanuel Macron recently announced his intention to deploy French troops in Ukraine. However, Putin has threatened decisive retaliation if this were to happen. A number of NATO countries have proposed negotiations in response to Macron's ideas. Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, and Poland are interested in carrying out the mission, but other powerful countries such as the US and Germany are strongly opposed. Russian officials have repeatedly responded to allegations of NATO interference in Ukraine, threatening retaliation and a serious escalation of the two-year conflict with Ukraine. In the days that followed, brutal Russian attacks prompted France to issue a final warning. General Thierry Burkhardt, commander of the French armed forces, said, "Russian President Vladimir Putin must understand that the West's support for Ukraine can be extended to soldiers on the ground." Burkhardt said Putin is basing his operation on the idea that the West will never enter Ukraine, but will only provide weapons. Burkhardt continued, "We have to show him that he cannot use this logic to the end, because it is not true. The war in Ukraine concerns us because we are involved in its consequences. That is why Europeans must be able to take risks to ensure Europe's security in the next decade." Burkhardt suggested that France could mobilize 20,000 troops within 30 days to support Ukraine's war effort. When other Allied troops deployed alongside the French are taken into account, the number could be as high as 60,000. Burkhardt's comments follow remarks by French President Emmanuel Macron. They sparked a heated debate among allies. Many NATO members, including Germany and the United States, have rejected the possibility. Other countries, such as Estonia or the Czech Republic, for example, said that the deployment of troops for non-combat missions should not be completely ruled out. Burkhardt continued, "Macron's intention is to make Vladimir Putin understand that we are aware of what is at stake in Ukraine." In a March 16th interview, Macron promised to come to Kiev and bring specific solutions to the war, but did not give a timetable for the visit. Meanwhile, Ukrainian troops continue to work at full speed. The intensity and frequency of Ukrainian drone strikes against Russian oil refineries is increasing every day. Since the beginning of this year alone, more than 10 major oil refineries and depots have been damaged. At the same time, some of them have been subjected to multiple strikes. The main goal of these attacks is to reduce the military's capability due to the transportation of fuel from Russian oil refineries to Ukraine, where it powers enemy tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, and aircraft. All these attacks are also causing damage to the Russian economy. Damage to the Russian economy reduces the ability of the Kremlin war machine to attack residential buildings and kill civilians. In other words, Ukraine's aggression restricts the movement of Russians in a connected way. According to military analysts, it is possible that mysterious drones will continue to attack Russia's oil infrastructure in the future, causing more destruction and damage. Russia has about 30 major oil refineries and dozens of smaller refineries. The aggressor country produces more than 530 million tons of oil a year, of which about 280 million tons are processed at domestic facilities. Ironically, it was Putin who, as prime minister, contributed to the development of the oil refinery sector and significantly increased it. Now, with his invasion of Ukraine, he has taken it all back and nullified his past economic achievements. First, Western sanctions were imposed on the Russian oil refinery, and now the industry has become a legitimate target for the Ukrainian defense and security forces, said Oleksandr Sirenko, an analyst at the Naftorinok consulting company. Since the beginning of 2024 alone, dozens of Russian refineries and oil depots have been attacked by drones. A source in the Ukrainian parliament commented. In some places they hit fuel tanks, in other cases refineries were closed for several months due to destruction. Large-scale attacks on Russian oil refineries began in 2023. In May, drones attacked the Ilsky oil refinery in Krasnodar Krai and the Afipsky oil refinery in Kuban Oblast. In July, an explosive device was detonated at the Kuibyshev oil refinery. Fuel storage facilities were also frequently targeted. Since the beginning of 2024, the intensity of attacks on Russian oil refineries has increased. Damage was reported at refineries and oil depots in Yaroslavl, Oryol, Volgograd, Tuapse, Klintsy, Ust-Luga, Ryazan, Bryansk, Belgorod, Rostov, Nizhny Novgorod, and Leningrad oblasts, as well as in the city of St. Petersburg. The first target of attacks on Russia's oil refinery infrastructure is strategic in nature. A source in the Ukrainian Defense and Security Forces made the following statement: Russian oil refineries are legitimate targets of the Security Service of Ukraine and Ukrainian Defense Intelligence. The attacks target military facilities that provide fuel for Russian military equipment such as tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, and aircraft firing missiles at Ukrainians, or facilities that contribute to Russia's defense. A source in Ukraine's Defense and Security Department said, the Russians cannot protect all facilities from drones. At the same time, every strong attack deep into Russian territory gives the country a reason to withdraw its air defense systems from the front line and helps the Ukrainian army. Another target of these attacks is the economy. Oil refineries not only provide fuel for Russian troops, they are also an important source of income for the nation, sometimes described as a gas station masquerading as a country. Russia uses the money from oil and gas sales. Another goal of the attacks is psychological. Morale, or lack of it, can be the decisive factor between victory and defeat. We can see this in the demoralized Russian casualties at the front. The nature of Russian media coverage of the attacks on oil refineries and depots varies. The Kremlin's consequences for the oil refining industry depend on the true extent of the damage. Serhiy Kuyun, director of A95 Consulting Group, explained, oil refineries are large industrial facilities that are difficult to completely disable with a single attack, even if well targeted. They involve multiple production lines, and crude oil can be rerouted to lines that are still functional when others are disabled. It is therefore still difficult to accurately assess the consequences of the attacks. Officials reported that the oil refineries attacked in recent days accounted for 12% of Russia's refining capacity. Market participants interviewed by people familiar with the matter emphasized that in this case, the figure refers to the theoretical production capacity of these facilities, while the share of actual refining halted due to the strike may be different. An official at one of the energy companies made the following statement: there is currently insufficient information to accurately assess the extent of the damage and to estimate when the affected facilities will be back in operation. We can say that the recent attacks will affect the total volume of refineries in Russia by a few percent at most. Energy expert Hennedy Ryabtsev said that the recent attacks have slightly reduced refinery volumes, but their weight on the balance sheet should not be overestimated. Ryabtsev continued, these are momentary strikes. They are painful and affect logistics, but they do not significantly affect total annual refining volumes. The good news is that most Russian refineries were built using Western equipment. The fact that this equipment was purchased before sanctions were imposed makes it much more difficult and time-consuming to repair facilities that have been attacked. Another positive development is that oil prices in Russia have risen to Rub 60,000 after the strike against oil refineries. This is the highest level in 6 months. The value of non-diesel fuels on the stock market is also rising. If the strikes continue at their current pace, Russia will have to follow its ban on refined oil exports with a similar ban on diesel shipments abroad. This increase in fuel prices was caused solely by reports of damage at oil refineries. If these reports turn out to be true, severely damaged equipment will force refineries to shut down for a prolonged period, pushing prices to new highs. Ryabtsev continued, attacks on primary oil refineries will have the greatest impact, because without them, it is impossible to produce gasoline, diesel, or jet fuel. According to him, so far the attacks have not had a critical impact on the sector, but if they continue to be launched and hit their targets accurately, everything could change. Ukraine is carrying out these attacks with limited means. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has called on EU leaders to provide Ukraine with more air defense systems and ammunition. Zelensky made an important speech at the European Council meeting. Let's take a look at what Zelensky said. All the air defense systems provided to Ukraine, mainly by European states, keep our cities and villages standing. But the existing air defense systems are not enough to protect all our territory from Russian terrorism. I ask you to help protect our cities. We need to provide reliable protection for the skies above the front line. We must make sure that Putin loses the battle for Ukraine's skies, and if he loses, he will lose his territory. The current use of artillery by Ukrainian soldiers on the front line is humiliating for Europe. Europe can provide much more than that right now, and it is very important to prove it now if Europe needs real defense self-sufficiency, and this can only be achieved by increasing the production of arms and ammunition on the continent. Ukraine is showing that this can be done very quickly. Please do not waste the time needed to get defense production up and running. The technological side of warfare is being updated, and for the sake of every country's security, it is necessary to keep up with the changes. Zelensky noted that Ukraine has offered Europe to invest in the production of drones, one of the most important types of weapons in modern warfare. Zelensky continued, "The potential of our UAV production is sufficient, and sufficient financing is needed to realize this potential on the front line. Everything we build for the defense of Ukraine will also work for the defense of our entire Europe." After this speech, Ukraine had a good development. The head of the Estonian Defense Ministry, Hanno Pevkur, visited Kiev the other day. During this visit, Pevkur announced a new military aid package worth 20 million euros to Ukraine, including artillery ammunition. Ukraine, as we have seen, has been persistently asking Europe for help to continue its offensive with even greater force. Every Ukrainian citizen is now working with all his strength for the freedom of his land. Thank you for watching us.
Well, I hope you all enjoyed that. Give it a like, give it a comment, share it with your friends, and I hope to all see you in the next video. Take it easy, peace. See you later.